Good. Welcome, D301 930, and a few of us from the 1 and the 230 class too. I think this is going to be one of our best guest sessions yet. Let me introduce to you James, who's come all the way from Ghana, who works with Challenging Heights. We'll be speaking with you today. We've, in a way, you need no introduction because we've been watching your video and talking about you for about a week now. Jessie from the Hovde Foundation, who is working closely with James, and Christine from our MBA program, who is facilitating the MBA visit. She's a second-year MBA, and they have 3 second-year MBAs and 21 first-year MBAs joining this trip. So this is a really neat panel of experience for you today. We're filming it so we can put it on our website for the other students, but also for the rest of the world. We have all these interesting guest speakers that we film and put online through CIBER. So without further ado, let me turn it over to you guys.
My name is Jessie Emelander with the Hovde Foundation in Washington, D.C. We're a foundation that's based off of a financial company. It was spurred from Hovde Financial, Hovde Private Equity, and we run a hedge fund. So this foundation was started to sort of take some of the revenue produced from the financial company and use it to better the world. So we have projects in Latin America and in Africa and one in the US. We build transitional homes for children who are vulnerable for a variety of reasons. We have a house in Kenya for abandoned and abused girls, and it's sort of like a safe house for them until their perpetrators are behind bars. We have a house in Mexico City for street children and a house in Madison, Wisconsin for homeless families and emergency housing for them. Rwanda, Peru, and Bolivia. And one of my favorite partners is James from Challenging Heights in Ghana. So my position, I specifically support our Ghana partner. So each one of our partners that we choose around the world, we look for a country that is sustainable politically and economically and socially. And then our specific partner, we look for some sort of business intuition and also an economy that would support like a thriving business. We do that because we hope to build 20 Hovde houses in the next 20 years, and we can't continue to support all of the operations for all of these houses forever, nor is it helpful for the partner to do that. So basically we help each partner start a business or 2 or 3 or however many they can handle that will produce revenue to help support the operations long term. So in 2010 we struck an agreement with Challenging Heights, and this past fall we completed the largest rehabilitation shelter we believe in West Africa, I'll say safely in Ghana. It's a huge comprehensive facility that addresses all of the needs of former child slaves. They've been rescued, they're brought here for physical, emotional, psychological rehabilitation. They're also enrolled in school and reintegrated back into their families. And one of the ideas that we came up with that I believe was probably James's idea was to start a block business. And this business will help spur some further revenue to support the Hovde house after we pull out. So as soon as James is ready to go and this house is fully under Challenging Heights, then this block business will hopefully support the operational cost of the house. So I have a few slides. This is nothing official. I was in the middle of creating a PowerPoint, and then I kind of took pieces of it and put this together. But at least it will give you kind of an idea of what Challenging Heights looks like, and then I'll let James talk about the story, and all of his business background. Let's push this. Yeah, that's an awesome slide. Oh, okay. So here's like Volta. Just a little bit of background on the issue that James will be talking about. Lake Volta is the largest man-made lake in the world. It was created in around 1965. It was basically a hydroelectric project for Ghana to create sustainable electricity for the country. So what they did was they built the Akasambo Dam that's close to the coast and basically flooded hundreds and thousands of acres of land. So they created this lake. Under this lake is a whole forest. So there are a lot of tree stumps and trees that still grow under there. And now that there's this huge lake, there's a lot of fishing on it. Fishing has become a really big industry, and it always has been in Ghana, but the traffickers are now, well, we'll just call them fishermen. They're looking for cheap labor. So they're coming to source communities like Winneba and Sancor, where James is from, and they come to these source communities where poverty is abundant. They take children, and by take children, they're mostly striking deals with parents. They're not just kidnapping children by any means. They're coming and they're telling the parents who are struggling, who may have 3, 4, 5, 10 children, and they're telling them, hey, I know you can't afford to take care of your kids, it's evident. You can't afford to send them to school, you can't afford to feed half of them, you're really struggling, and these parents are desperate. So the traffickers come and they say, listen, we'll take your son, Kofi, we'll take your son, put him in school, we'll teach him a very valuable trade in fishing, so he'll learn the value of hard work, and we'll provide food and shelter and all the necessities that you cannot give him, and we'll give you $40. And so the parents automatically think this is just heaven sent. And yeah, they struggle with letting their child go to another family, but what's important to understand is this is a long-standing cultural norm in Ghana of the extended family. And when your family is struggling, your immediate family, your mother and father are struggling to provide with you, it's very, very common for the extended family to take over, or even community members to say, hey, let me take care of Kofi for you until you can get back on your feet. And so the community really does take care of the children. So this is sort of a distorted manipulation of that cultural norm of these traffickers coming in and taking advantage of the naivety of parents. So they take them to Lake Volta. The kids think that they're going to go to school. They're really excited. You know, they're a little nervous, I'm sure, but they're excited that they're going to have this opportunity. And they wake up the next morning after, you know, an 8, 10, 12-hour drive up north to Lake Volta. And they wake up the next morning at 3 a.m. and they fish for 16 hours straight, and they don't go to school. They're fed maybe once during the day, and they're beaten for things that they don't even understand why, and they're neglected and just abused emotionally above everything else. So Challenging Heights is that rescue organization. They go in, they rescue, rehabilitate, but most importantly, they work on prevention. So the Hovde Foundation built the rehabilitation shelter for Challenging Heights. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like here, this is the Challenging Heights school. So education is the center of everything that Challenging Heights does. Education is that key to letting the children know their rights. So this is the K through 7th grade school. I got back from Ghana this past week and I just took a video of their classroom. I thought it's interesting that people who haven't seen it. These classrooms are made to hold like 25 to 30 students, like a normal classroom. And because Challenging Heights wants to end this issue, they don't turn away very many students or children who need to go to school. So currently, because of lack of facility, they're housing about 65 to 70 kids in every single class every day. Okay, I'll bring that up at the end. It was just a quick peek to see how cramped these classes are. This is a temporary structure that Challenging Heights has built because one of the structures that they were holding school in was not stably sound. It was crumbling around them and very dangerous for the kids. So they built this temporary structure while some new classrooms can be built. This is a temporary community center that they built at the back of the campus there. This is mostly supposed to be used for kind of like presentations or for kids to have lunch at. They're probably getting their lunch over here, but a lot of it is used for classrooms or the mentoring program that they have. This is a new classroom going up here, a little further view of it from the back. So these are very, very expensive to build, and that's why it's so difficult for, even I think what, James, they're like $15,000 per classroom to build, so it's not easy to increase the infrastructure. A few volunteers painting a new, this is a HAWS, a volunteer group that came in, and they're finishing construction on a building that they just put up. And then this is the hubby house. Unfortunately, I don't have a better photo. This was actually from a few months ago when it was under construction, but it's completely done now. There were 37 kids that have been rescued and brought to the hubby house in the past couple of months. I think just this past Friday, 13 of them were the first batch to be reintegrated back into their families. So it's a long process, and the families usually come and visit the children while they're at the house and kind of start that process. But I believe more kids have been rescued and brought in their place since then too. So this is their first point of refuge. They have classes in here, they eat here, they sleep here, there's dormitories up top. Their teachers come to the house, they don't have to leave. They have a whole cafeteria in the back, and they have a soccer field in this back left-hand corner. And so it's basically a really safe place for them to go. And unfortunately, as I learned when I was there a couple of weeks ago, most of the kids are boys. Out of the 37, 34 of them are boys. 3 of them are girls, just because boys are used a lot more in the fishing industry for labor. I heard that a lot of the boys were really violent at the beginning because that's kind of all they've known, depending on how long they've been there. Some have been there for as little as a few weeks, fishing on Lake Volta. Some have been there their whole life, so they could be there 10 years or more. So we have kids here anywhere between the age of 4 and 17 when I went there last week. And a lot of them are violent, a lot of them are just angry, and as I learned, I don't know if it was one that spread a rumor or this was kind of a consensus amongst all of them, but they believed that they were being brought here to be repriced and sold to someone else. So that's why they kind of had this angry feeling about them. They didn't know what was going on, and it took them a while to understand what love was, the fact that their teachers and their house mothers and the cooks there and the general manager who oversees the whole house, so they all had this love for them, and that they were going to let them go to school and let them have the freedom to make their own decisions. So it was really an amazing thing to see. And this actually goes back to the Challenging Heights School that I just showed you. This is an ICT center that was just created, so as soon as we get some computers in there, then Challenging Heights will have a really nice computer lab for children, staff to use, and it's also a business idea that James has come up with to put computers in here, and then after hours, after school is out, to actually rent them out by the hour or half hour to community members who would otherwise not have access to computers or internet. And so it would bring that to the community, but it would also be a source of revenue for the Challenging Heights School. Sorry, I'm speaking back and forth here. So this is back to the hubby house, and this is the cafeteria within that, and then some of the Challenging Heights kids. So that kind of just helps you visualize what James will be talking about. And so back to the last thing that we touched on was the block business. Right now, that's why we're in Indiana. We're working with the MBA Glow-Based program, and they are helping challenging. So Hovde Foundation provided all the startup capital for this block business in hopes that this block business would produce revenue that would help to sustain the Hovde house long term. So after we leave in a few years, whatever that time may be, this will take the place and be that substitute revenue coming in. So the MBA Glow-Based team is helping us with marketing. They're helping us build that sustainable business model that we otherwise may not have. Hovde Foundation is a non-operating organization, meaning we don't have anyone who works in the field at any of our houses. We have 2 employees, including myself, in the foundation, so all of our houses have to be run by the partners, and the partners don't necessarily have the operating funds to have their staff go and do this, nor do they have some of the know-how. I mean, it's not everyone has that business sense about them in Ghana. So this has really, really helped a lot. We've met with the team a few times, and this is kind of the start of something really sustainable. So I will have my good friend James come up tell you about his story a little bit, where he comes from, and how he sees the business atmosphere really contributing to this social enterprise.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll stand. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to interact with you today. It's been a few days of excitement and knowing Indiana University and so on and so forth. I know that Jessie has done a lot of the presentations, but we have a long way in it, which I cannot exhaust. So I'll start by saying, if you want more information, you may want to just like us on Facebook, Challenging Heights on Facebook, so that we'll keep you updated, because some of these rescues and reintegrations, we post them on our Facebook. And of course, you can also friend me so that you can get more information. And visit challengingheights.org to also look at some of our videos. We are coming out with new websites and new videos, so very soon you'll have the opportunity to see more. I understand this class is quite a business class. I used to do business in high school. Accounting was my favorite, but now if you ask me anything about accounting, I don't think I will use it. Right? It's been a long time. I switched to psychology, but essentially I've maintained that business mentality, because that creates sustainability. Whatever we do, even in Challenging Heights, I run it as though I'm running a business. That is what will make it self-sustaining. I am from a small community in Winneba, where trafficking has been very high, where almost every single home in that community was affected by trafficking. And my home was not an exception. I come from a family of 12 children. That's my mother gave birth to 12 children, all of them illiterate, and I'm the last born of those 12 children. My parents were also illiterate, and I would say they were poor, peasants, farmers, and fishermen. So most of my siblings had the unpleasant experience of being sold into the same slavery that I was later on pushed into. Therefore, when I was 6 years old, the story was to be continued with me. And that is why, at the age of 6, my parents, I would say my father, gave me out as a fisherman to the fishermen who were working on the lake water, which you've been shown a while ago. It was 7 years of very serious endurance, something that you would not wish for your bitterest of enemies. Pain and agony, fishing, starting work from 3 a.m. and closing at 8 p.m. and being engaged in activities every minute of the time, and not expected to make mistakes, because when I made a mistake, the punishment that was associated with the mistake was very dire. So you are always panting, always afraid, always terrified. And it's not just a perception of being terrified, but also an actual practice of being abused physically every moment of the time, especially when you make mistakes. And with all this ordeal, working 17 hours a day, I ate once a day. That is not the only situation that I will call slavery. And of course, I'm sure some of you might have read about ancient slavery, the transatlantic slavery, and all of that. We're not talking about something different from that. We are talking about something which could even be more severe than that. So those of us who think that slavery is gone, it's not gone. We are still experiencing slavery today. In fact, the experts are putting the number to be 27 million slaves in the world at this moment. And I'm talking about the same or even much more abuse on slavery or on slaves than the ancient ones. In the course of my work, one of the things that I still do not understand is how, as a human being, I was treated beside the fact of physical work at my age, where even when I was sick, I was not entitled to any medical care because there was not even access to any medical facility. So if I was sick, I was just left either to die or continue working. If I was bitten by a snake, there was no access to medical care. If somebody beat me severely and I was wounded, I was just left either to rot or to continue working. So it was just a use of a material to achieve somebody's profit motives. And that is the kind of work that I had to do. Being put and forced to dive under the lake to remove an entangled net. After going through this for 7 years, of course, I cannot describe all the deeds because it's very long. It's a lot of things to say. I knew that I have to leave that place because I had come face to face with death several times in course of work. Several times I'd been trapped under the lake, and several times I almost didn't make it. Several times I'd been hit by paddles that we used to paddle the canoe, and several times I had passed out. Several times I knew that, no, this one I could not make it. And yet I wanted to survive. I wanted to live. So that humanness was always in me, urging me on to flee. And so naturally, I attempted to run away from my masters several times. And I work in more than 20 communities. So in almost each of these communities and in almost one of the 15 masters that I work with, I always wanted to run away. I didn't succeed most of them because the place was not accessible, and the same boat that you use to run away is the same boat that your master is also going to board. So how are you going to escape? And unfortunately for me, the consequences of attempting to escape was so dire that sometimes I felt it was a mistake even attempting to escape. Because they will make sure that they set an example for other children who would like to escape. And we had so many children. In fact, when I was being trafficked, we were 6 who were trafficked together at a time, at dawn. And I'm glad to say that I'm one of 3 of the 6 who survived the slavery. The other 3 did not survive. And I'm the only one among the 6 who were trafficked, or among the 3 who survived, who had education. So finally, I was able to escape through very simplified means, and decided that the only way to sustain myself in the community and to avoid myself from being re-enslaved was to be in school. Because so far as I was out of school and was doing nothing and was loitering about in the community, my parents had the opportunity or had the excuse to sell me again. So I had to put myself in school. I have to be in school. My mother was happy to protect me, but she was sick at that time. She was bedridden at the age of almost 60 at that time. She couldn't take care of me. My father, who was strong enough to take care of me, felt that I had rebelled against him by running away from my masters, and therefore he had rejected me. And by cultures and tradition, once your father rejects you, the whole community has rejected you. So here was I, at the age of 13, having escaped this ordeal and wanting to go to school, which I believe is a good thing, but not having anybody to support me. What did I do? What should I have done to be able to make it to school? But I still retained the skills of fishing wherever I was. And I come from the coastal area, so I combined fishing with schooling, because school was the ultimate. I felt so strongly that the only thing that could rescue me ultimately is schooling. Because with the schooling, I will end poverty, I will know my rights, and you can't take me for granted. So I persevered and combined this work with schooling, and it paid off. It was not easy. Sometimes 3 days without food, and plugging mangoes and coconuts, wild mangoes and coconuts, just to eat. It was not easy. I've been talking to a lot of American young people and children, and I tell them, you have such an enormous opportunity being born in America. And sometimes I see, it's obvious to me that sometimes some of them take it for granted. But at least an American child is guaranteed 3 meals a day, or at worst 2 meals a day, sometimes with some toffees and other things spiced. But here was I. All that I craved for was somebody to guarantee me 1 meal a day. Somebody to just say, James, don't worry about your meal tomorrow. I'll take care of that. I didn't have that. So I had to, in my planning for school, I had to plan for the food I'll eat. And that's why I went days without eating. The pain of that did, I'm glad that at least I did combine this work and schooling. I set a record in that school. That record is still there unbroken. That is the fruit of perseverance, endurance, and hard work. And finally went to the high school where I did very well, and went to the university where I did very well as well, and got a job in Barclays Bank. Now, having narrated these personal stories, I believe that for me to have gone through all these childhood circumstances up to my adulthood where I had a job from the bank, I was a better placed person to know what those children are going through in enslavement and to know what it means to be a free person. Because I have been there in the fishing industry where I was abused, and I've been there as a banker, as a manager, managing a number of people and getting good money. So I thought that I had to be able to help those other children who were still enslaved. My organization, Challenging Heights, has its motto, to whom much is given, much is expected. Much has been given me. Though the community rejected me, my own parents rejected me, though I was abused, but I believe that life itself had given me a good opportunity to flourish, to at least see all this around me: good education, good job, and life. So I set up Challenging Heights, and we started rescuing children from slavery. 1 child at a time, 2 children, 3 children, up to today, where we are able to support over 1,400 children in a year. Last year, we supported a total of 1,420 children. 37 of them were rescued from slavery. We do a lot of preventive work because it's very expensive rescuing children. It costs us at least $400 to rescue 1 child. But it costs us $240 to educate 1 child for a year. So we do a lot of preventive work in order to not to allow them to be enslaved or trafficked in the first place. I take whatever I do as being a social entrepreneur within the context of social justice. I believe that in order for everything that I do to thrive, I have to look at its long-term impact and sustainability. How would I run this organization in such a way that tomorrow when I'm no more there, because I'm the main figure, if somebody is donating to the organization, the person looks at me and trusts me and sees the legitimacy that I have because I've been in the same situation to donate. How do I build it in such a way that that personality court with this organization is gradually removed in the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, so that the organization will stand on its own systems and structures and run towards the total abolition of slavery in the world? That is why we start certain businesses along the line, and that is why Jessie talked about the block business. Setting up businesses in Ghana is not difficult. It's not difficult to just register your business. You just pick your name, the name of the business, go to the Registrar General, which is government agency, and they do a search to see whether the name doesn't exist or exists. If it doesn't exist, then you just buy a form, fill, submit with a fee. And at the moment, it doesn't take any longer, maybe 1 month or so, you get your certificate. But running it is the issue. We don't have the kind of systems and structures and the trust that you know in America. And that is where the virtues of an entrepreneur is always brought to bear. I believe that you should be a leader over whatever you start. Setting the example. If you set the example, other people get other people to follow you. In America, for instance, if you go and buy water, I could be giving a receipt. Most likely, the vendor will call me and say, take your receipt. But in Ghana, you could buy something worth $10,000 and may not get a receipt. That is not a good way of running business. You need to carry or keep records. But these things are not there. You need to keep your records to ensure that you are tracking your expenditures and your income. If it is not there, how do you know that you are making profit or you are not making profit? So those are the things that are lacking. In setting up this business that I'm talking about, we needed a lot of some of these structures to be put in place, and that's why I'm glad that we are partnering with Globase to help us to set up marketing strategy and to keep our records in check. I have in the past established a number of businesses, and my background is actually business, though I did psychology in the university, but I've done a lot of business. I set up a printing press, which was called Challenging Steps. I'm sure you are hearing it for the first time. Which did very well, but for my commitment with Challenging Heights, I should be managing that company right now. And I set up a PR company because my master's was in public relations. And I set up a PR company to run. Now, all these things, I'm trying to draw a small similarities and differences between how issues of sustainability can be built in our setting, how businesses are run in Ghana vis-a-vis how businesses are run in America. If, for instance, tomorrow, Jessica and her organization decide to pull out of Challenging Heights, how do we run? Do we fold Challenging Heights and say, we are not going to run again? If you do that, it means that I have not run the organization well. The organization should be running on its own, whether with external or without external support. That is why we set up this ICT center, to ensure that our children who needs to learn basic ICT, basic computers, will have access to them, open the doors to the local communities who do not know anything about ICT, give them an opportunity to access it, pay something, in return, we get something to run this organization. Teach the children how to manage these centers. In the process, inculcate in them the spirit of entrepreneurship. And that's when they themselves have finished school, they could become employees of the same center that they learned from. And because they've gone through the same system and processes, they have the passion, the zeal to run the organization with the same mission and vision and values that the leadership has. That is what we are doing at the moment. So almost every aspect of our organization is being run as a business. Not for profit, but with business mentality. Today, as I speak to you, our programs manager is a past beneficiary of Challenging Heights because of the way we have structured our organization. His assistant, who is a programs officer, is also a past beneficiary of Challenging Heights. If Jessie has shown you the video, the teacher who is teaching there is a past beneficiary of Challenging Heights. So everyone who is going through the system of support in Challenging Heights is being groomed, nurtured to take up leadership in the organization and to contribute to the emancipation of other children who have been enslaved, to fulfilling our own motto of to whom much is given, much is expected. Today, I am glad that Challenging Heights that started with my own resources. I devoted 60% of my salary towards the establishment of this organization. Today has staff strength of 52. With so far a total support to more than 10,000 children across our project since 2003. With an international presence, of course, standing here means that I'm international, I'm honored. With an international presence and being the leading organization in Ghana and well sought after organization abroad. That I am very proud of. And that's a thinking business. I'm sure you have some questions to ask. So I'll end there so that we then discuss your questions. Thank you very much. Yes.
Clearly you have such a huge impact on these kids. What sort of personal relationships do you keep with them? Do you know them all personally on a first-name basis and try to work with them personally? Or are you more focused on rescuing them or maintaining the business aspect of it? What do you focus on specifically?
You're talking about the children? Mm-hmm. Okay, I believe that each one of the children knows me personally. Those who are at the shelter, who are rescued, I know each one of them personally, no doubt about that, because they are few. They are not as many as the preventive beneficiaries. But those others that we support to prevent, they are many. Like you're talking about over 1,000 children. So not all of them, I don't know all of them. Because of that, I wanted to make sure that I remain their model, their role model, and to make sure that they aspire to greater heights. So I organize periodic interactions with them. And they have themselves coined a name for me. They've given me a name. They all call me, all the children call me senior. That's all in fact, even the staff, they call me senior. So that then endures me to them. for them to be able to see me as their role model, because I want to be. I've told them that each one of them, I hope that each one of them will go beyond where I have been. Because I always say a good leader is not necessarily the person who does very well and leaves and nothing works. But a good leader is the person who, after leaving office, the one who comes after him or her does better than himself. It means that you have created the environment, the atmosphere, the structure, the systems for the one who takes over from you to thrive and to do well. And that's what I want to do for them. So always motivating them to do better than I do. Of course, you may have some of them, not all of them, going that far. But at least, if you put that spirit in them, they would aspire in competition. Yes.
When it comes to the trafficking industry and your interaction with traffickers, has it been more of a confrontation, or do you have issues with them, or do they almost understand where you're coming from or where you're trying to help the community out?
Both confrontational and through dialogue. We always have our first option to be dialogue, because we are dealing with a great number of victims. Let me give you quick figures. In Ghana's population is 24 million as at the last census. Out of that, we have 63.3 million being children. Out of this 6.3, we have over 240,000 of them being enslaved or in forced labor or being victims of trafficking. Just look at the percentage of the number of children in this situation. If we say we are going to be confrontational or be legalistic with each case, we are going to be overwhelmed by cases, and our mission may change, because we don't have the resources to do every one of those cases. We don't have the human resource, the legal fees, and all of that. So we try to negotiate with the traffickers, and in the process, we get more children than we would have done if we had gone with a legal trump card. So that is one. Now, in cases where there's a clear case of a trafficker or a master becoming recalcitrant, then we use it as a case to deter others who would go that way. So that is why we have a number of cases in court, and we have a number of people being put in jail because they were very resistant to the work we do. They are resistant to we rescuing certain children, and so we use them as scapegoats.
Yes.
If it's $400 to rescue a child, but $40 to buy a child slave, why don't you guys just go buy 10 child slaves instead of worrying about rescuing one, and then bringing those child slaves to, because they would have been purchased anyways, and then just doing the prevention program through that?
We don't buy the children back. The $400 that I'm talking about is how much it costs us in locating a child and in the process of rescuing that child. So my brother here asked a question. Is it confrontational? If we are going confrontational, when we go once, we can just say we have seen this child and we are taking the child back. They will fight us, but we will succeed because we have the machines and so on and so forth. But the rest of the children will go missing. So we, through the dialogue, will go a number of times for one child. You can go this community, they will say the child is not there. You have to go to another community, the child is not there. Because these children, some of them have been missing for a very long time. So even the parents do not know exactly where these children have been sent to. So by the time you rescue one child, you spend about $400. Including the treatment. You have to treat the child when you rescue the child and so on and so forth. There are a lot of things that goes into it. But it is illegal for us to buy them back. So we don't pay the fishermen to say, take this money and give you the child. No.
But wouldn't it be cheaper to do that than paying an attorney to have to go to court and then bring legal papers and all that? Wouldn't it be better just to offer the, I mean, I know it's illegal, but wouldn't it be more financially responsible, I guess?
No, when we do that, there will be a booming industry. Everyone will intentionally sell a child, and we will have to go and rescue them because it will come with money. So even putting the legal issues aside, that is not so nice a decision to make. And I feel it's not right. It's just not right for you to commit a crime, and I pay for you to get out of the crime. I pay you to get out of the crime. No, it's not. It doesn't feel right.
To kind of build off of that, you mentioned that there's certain towns or areas where traffickers come, and most kids in that area are taken. Have you thought about going to the root of the problem and going to that town first and raising awareness, setting up programs there before it even happens?
Yeah, definitely. See, our trafficking project is very comprehensive. Even the process of rescue, it starts with public awareness, community awareness. So we use the laws. We have a lot of laws that we use. The Human Trafficking Law, the Children's Act, the Convention on the Right of the Child, and so on and so forth, to create awareness that this is illegal issue, and then also create awareness about the benefits of education. Using those past children that we have rescued as a showcase, they will go through drama, they will conduct drama and give testimonies and so on and so forth. So the parents see the benefits of education and the benefits of the children being free. It is then that we get a lot of cases coming up. I have a brother or a sister, or I have a friend, or I have somebody I know who has been missing for some time or who has been trafficked. They give that information to us, and then we use those information to trace the children to rescue them. When we go to where the children are being sent to, we do another set of public awareness and community sensitization. So education is key. I would say public education is so key in all that we do. Otherwise, it's not. If we just take the children out, they won't even know the essence of what we are doing. So it's very, very integrated in the things that we do.
And just to touch on that, when James gives the figure of $400 to rescue, that is very conservative. That's on the low end of a rescue. Like a rescue just happened a month or two ago, and they rescued, was it 2 or 4 children? 2?
3.
3, right? No. Okay, so they rescued 3 children, and it cost about $4,000 because they negotiate with it's usually not negotiation with the trafficker, but they go straight to the village chief and they say, listen, this is illegal, we could bring the police, don't make us bring the police, and then the chief sees it, he says, okay. Well, sometimes they have to go back. And where they're rescuing from is in Yeji. It's 10 hours away. I mean, they drive all the way up here from the coast, and all of that diesel that it costs them to travel back and forth. They have to pay for the staff to stay overnight somewhere. They have to pay for all of that, including the fuel for the boat. All of that is factored into there. Sometimes they have to make 2-3 trips just to get 1 or 2 children. And all of that is necessary. There's really no way around it. And so when he says it costs $240 to send a child to school year-round, it's much, much, much cheaper to educate than it is to rescue. And that's why rescue is done when it has to be done, which is evident. They have 75 kids on a database right now who have been identified. They have been trafficked, and they're all being investigated to be rescued. But these community sensitization events they do, I've gone to a few of them, they're really, really interesting. They just go into a community, they set up these big speakers and this big projection slide, and they start playing all this crazy Japanese music and like American music and like some of these villagers have never heard a stereo system like this, never heard music like this. So all the kids come out, they all start dancing, all the parents start dancing. It's like this attention-grabbing event, and then they start the video on child trafficking. Now they have a captured audience. There's probably hundreds, maybe 1,000 people in this audience late at night. They're all out there, and as they play this video of, they show children they've rescued. They show children with these spinal deformations because they've been pulling fishing nets like this for years of their life. Little boys with just these curved spines and missing eyeballs, and just like, they show real boys that have been rescued and what really happens, and the reality of where your kids are going. When you say, yeah, take them off, teach them this trade, I'll see you in a year. They're promised to have their kids back. None of the kids come back. They may send a few dollars home, but they don't come back. So you can hear these women gasping in the audience. They're like, you can hear them crying, and all of a sudden, that's where James is talking about. That's where all of these stories of, I just sold my child. My aunt just sold a child. My sister just sold her 2 children. We all think they're coming back, and that's where that awareness starts to come, and that they all start to mention that to other people in the surrounding communities, and that's where the awareness is spread.
Thank you. Yes.
How do you pinpoint the children that you're going to rescue first? Because obviously, just because of money, and you can't go out and rescue all of them. So how do you figure out which ones are in most need?
See, once we get the list that Jessie was talking about, we now have 75 children on our list to be rescued. We take this list, each one of them is a candidate to be rescued. But we don't, because of cost, we don't just go in. We investigate the backgrounds of those children. Some of them, quite frankly, might have been dead. So you wouldn't need to go further if you realize that that child is no more. Some of them might have been retained. So we do all those investigations. But once we screen these children, and these 75 that we have are all legitimate to be rescued, then we don't have any more criteria to rescue, unless maybe the team decides to strategize to rescue those who are closer or nearer first. But that one, it will be a decision of the team to say that let's rescue those who are closer and then later rescue those who are farther off. Other than that, each one of them should be rescued. That's what the law says. The law says that if a child is found to be trafficked, you should immediately, as per our license, rescue that child from that distress circumstance and keep that child safe before you even ask questions.
But that list is formed from reports that they receive.
Yeah.
So parents, sometimes aunts and uncles will report on the parents who sold. Sometimes they'll say, I know my neighbor did this. Sometimes it's the parents who are deceived. Sometimes it's reports of parents who weren't deceived but sold their kids. And so that's where they go.
Yeah. So we'll take 2 more questions and then, is that correct? We have. Oh, okay. Okay, 15 minutes? 15, okay. All right. Yeah, sure.
What have you seen to be the community response to these videos that you go in and show? Is it really convincing and everyone accepts it and believes it, or are there people that just refuse to believe it's true, or people that latch out against it and want to continue that institution? Or what is that response been?
Let me give you a story. There was a time that we went to a community to do public awareness. And we showed this video, which is one of the most touchy videos that we have. And everybody was like, that kind of, almost everybody. Then there was this man who was passing by and stopped, didn't know what was happening, so stopped to get to know what was happening. And then saw that we were showing clips on the lake on how children are abused. Then he started lamenting. This one is not true. It's they intentionally use technology to create that. He was nearly lynched.
Nearly lynched.
Yes. He was nearly lynched. Because, you see, the people become angry when they see it. They don't know what is happening there. So when they see these videos, the realities of what is happening there dawns on them. And they believe us. So the reception is very good. I mean, when we show it. I must add quickly that that man who was talking about this film was made up and technology and so on and so forth happened to be a trafficker. So the key issue is that we have a few people who resist the work we do, and those are the people who benefit from the woes of those children. They will do everything possible to create problems for us. But those who support us are more than 90%. They are the ones who are at the receiving end. They are the ones who are deceived to sell their children. They are the ones who are tricked to sell their children. They are the ones whose children are taken away by force. They are the ones who see that we are their advocates.
Also, there's a more organized structure behind that, so it's not just showing these movies and then leaving and saying, well, I hope y'all remember this, you know. They actually go in and create these CCPCs, which are like community action groups. It's like an organized neighborhood watch. And they take all like the village chief or the community head and all the community stakeholders, and it's like a neighborhood watch that's organized in a way that if, you know, they all kind of they keep a watch on each other and make sure that if a child goes missing, they'll know about it. So Challenging Heights can't be in every community, in every source city in Ghana, but they can help set up these databases to keep track of all the children.
So they are more or less, they are our representative in each community. And they make sure that whenever there's a case of trafficking, they quickly call our hotlines and then we come in. Yeah. Somebody, yes. How did I get out? Okay, so after a number of times of wanting to escape and being unsuccessful, I was named after somebody. My original name is called Kwame Kansa. That's my original name. And I was named after a renowned religious leader in Ghana. So this person died, and the church decided that anyone who was named after the man should be brought to the funeral ceremony. Here was I missing. And my parents believed so much in this man, and so they had to look for me. They had no option. It took them 2 weeks to look for me, and they located me finally. Brought me to the funeral ceremony, and as they were enjoying themselves, I was looking for ways of just running away. And in fact, that day, the day I was brought to the funeral grounds, was the first time I seen a vehicle for 2 good years. Like this common vehicle that you can see 10 times a day or even more. That was the first time in 2 years that I had seen a vehicle. So I joined one of them, which is a cargo truck that was coming from the north to the south where I come from. And I just joined, asked them to help load and offload the yam so that they can give me some. And they agreed at the age of 13. So that's how I escaped. When my parents came, my mother somehow later told me she knew I was going to run away. But somehow she didn't tell my father. She was happy to see me, but my father was not. But I'd run away anyway. That was the most important thing.
In those communities where you do the awareness programs, do you find that after
like an escaped slave returns to their families, do the fathers change their behavior? Do they accept the children back? Does that behavior change?
Yeah, there has been a number of behavioral change. In fact, I would say majority of our children go back to their parents. Majority of them accept, about 65% accept the children back. But a number of them too do not accept the children back. Or either the children do not want to go back to their parents, or the parents do not want to accept them back. There are two reasons from each side, each one of them. The parents sometimes feel that, especially with the girls, when the girls are sold, they are sold to serve the boys, the older boys who want to run away. So they feel that, I mean, culturally, we frown upon prostitution and, issues of sexuality. We don't want to talk about it. No family will want to be tagged with that. That's cultural. So they know what the children had gone through. So they don't want the community to stigmatize them, that their girl want to do this work or that work. So they don't want them back. The children themselves too, some of them will think that you betrayed me. As my parents, you sold me to go and do this work. So there's no point in coming back to you. So they also don't want to go back. So a lot of times we spend a lot of our time trying to bridge the gap, resolving conflict between the parents and the children, and trying to find a way of bringing them together to live together as a family. Where we are unable to achieve this goal, then we give these children to foster parents, and they take care of them. We support them through income generating means, and then they take care of them. So those are the cases. But over 65% of them would go back to their family. But it requires a lot of work. In fact, as I speak to you now, as we have our children at the Shared Rehabilitation Center, the community workers that we have are continuously talking to the parents and the children, trying to let them know that your children that you sold them are not the same as you used to know them. So there are differences. Living together is different, will be different now than as you used to. So a lot of work goes on, before they are even reintegrated, including even training them in business management skills, training the family in business management skills, so that they will be able to do some businesses and income to take care of the children. Because we can't take care of the children forever. We can only go as far as our resources can allow.
Challenging Heights currently runs a microfinance program that supports women and heads of households who support children, so either on a preventative measure or, like he's saying, to help empower the families when the children come back. But they currently support 260 different women or heads of households with over $50,000 in microfinance loans with a local bank.
Yeah. So that they can do some businesses. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. It's all part of the sustainability and entrepreneurial issues that we're talking about. As I speak to you now, some of these businesses have gone on, like these women, have gone on to improve upon their own businesses and are taking care of their own children and employing additional teachers to teach their children in the evenings. You see, so that's some of the success stories. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.